right, we're here, and Eric is going to share some wonderful information. I am acting as a general public today, not just like for acting purposes, but also because I have not been following this story. So, Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about the whole, I think he's a football player thing that's going on? I'm
That's
not joking,
amazing.
and that I have no
No,
idea.
no, I know. That's why I think I'm sorry. I'm just giggling because I love you so much. And it just made me giggle where you're like, I think he's a football player. It's like, that's just awesome. Yeah. So I had proposed to Tiffany, maybe we could talk about Sorsby, who is the former UC quarterback, potential transfer Texas Tech quarterback. I say that at the time we're recording this, he is declared for the NFL supplemental draft and he will not be playing at Texas Tech. Um, but I just think it's a really interesting, like problem gambling kind of case to talk about. And so, if I may, for just like a moment, I thought maybe I could give us a little bit of context, maybe like a definition, and then kind of like explaining like why I'm so passionate about this. So,
Mhm.
first, like I want to be clear to say that like Tiffany and I don't know if we've said it here, but like we are not anti like drugs, gambling, alcohol, video games, really anything. But we do talk a lot about like process addictions and anything can be kind of addictive. So I just want to be clear that like me talking about problem gambling is not me saying that if you go to bingo that I'm like shame on you, you should feel terrible. Like that's I just want to be very specific. But what I am going to talk about is that line where something can become like more of an addiction, be shifting into that problem range, and like that's what we're talking about this. I want to be kind of specific with that so it's not like, hey, wait, what are we talking about? So for those who may not know like what would be a definition of problem gambling, um, I'm just going to kind of read off of this from the National Council on Problem Gambling. um, Problem gambling, also known as gambling disorder or gambling addiction, is a behavioral addiction characterized by the uncontrollable urge to gamble despite severe negative consequences. It harms a person's financial stability, career, mental health, and personal relationships. So, some of the warning signs that may go with this could be thinking about gambling all the time, feeling the need to bet more money and more often, getting back and trying to win your money back, chasing losses, feeling restless or irritable when trying to stop or cut down, feeling like you can't control yourself, gambling despite negative consequences. In extreme cases, problem gambling can cause bankruptcy, legal problems, losing your job or your family, and thinking about suicide. One thing I like to just point out, frankly, is that 1 in 4 people diagnosed with a gambling addiction, gambling disorder, attempt suicide. So I do just want to make sure that if you're sitting here and like, well, that's not a problem that impacts me. Uh, I'm glad that doesn't impact you. I think, unfortunately, this is going to be impacting more and more people, more and more families, like each and every day.
Mhm.
So just not that like you, Tiffany, are not this way, of course. Like you're very empathetic, things don't impact you. And like obviously you're letting us have, you're supporting this episode. But I just think like as a substance use counselor, I find this often where someone maybe, and it really is a blessing. I would use this word if you don't know anybody in your circle that's been impacted by addiction, like that is a blessing. That's really rare. That's not most people's experience. So like not a close friend, not a family member, um, it's so common. And the example I give in a non-judgmental way is during COVID, when all of us got shut down, alcohol sales skyrocketed. I mean, I think it was almost like, I don't want to make up stats, but it was almost double alcohol sales. If you go like before the pandemic, during pandemic, which means a lot of people drinking. And one of the things we know with alcohol consumption, it's a 80% of the profits are from 20% of the people. So that, to me, if you just go with that, like that means that group of people drinking more alcohol. I know that there was a lot of medical trauma, like medical providers, first responders. And so it's this accessibility thing. And so, you have, what do you do?
Mhm.
So Tiffany knows I can go on rants and tangents, but I just think it's important to have some context because we're having this explosion. Um, in Ohio specifically about problem gambling, and like where that is.
Mhm. Yeah. So just to make sure I'm following, we're talking about a gambling problem, as defined by you earlier with this football player and how it has become problematic. Correct.
Correct. I'm gonna get more into
Okay.
the case, but I felt like some people may need some background because
Yes,
I'm
I am
obviously
one of those
very.
people. I'm just making sure I am like
No, no, no.
understanding
I felt like
where
to
we're
have
going.
this conversation in an informed manner, I think you have to have some context, like about like legality, laws, the
Yes.
makeup. So let me keep on my tangent unless you have something to say.
No, I just want to make I'm just going to do the human like I'm following what we're talking about because you're the expert here and I'm not and I'm like, okay, I got to make sure
Well, you
I'm trying to
are
put
the
my
expert
ducks in
on
a row even though
so
I don't want to be in a row.
you're the expert on so many things. Um, so something else that just like if we were going to give a diagnosis of gambling disorder, I think that can be interesting. So it'd be at least four of the following in a year's time frame. And this is kind of similar to what I said earlier, but I just think it's worth repeating some of it. Frequent thoughts about gambling, such as reliving past gambling or planning future gambling. Need to gamble with increasing amounts to achieve desired excitement. Repeated unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back, or stop. Restlessness or irritability when trying to cut down or stop. Gambling when trying to escape from problems of negative mood or stress. After losing an item of value by gambling, feeling the need to continue to get even, chasing losses. Often gambling when feeling distressed. After losing money, often returning to get even. Lying to hide the extent of the problem. Losing important opportunities such as job or school achievements or close relationships due to gambling. This one is really common as well, relying on others to help with money problems caused by gambling. So it is just four. And so this is something as an addictions counselor, I will find people will argue, well, hey, I never gamble when I'm stressed. Or, well, I've never had to get money from a family member or a friend. Like you don't have to have that one. You just need to have four of those different ones.
Mhm.
So four of the 13. Go ahead.
I'm curious in terms of like with gambling, can it look like vastly different? So like I guess what comes to mind is like could it be considered like part of a gambling addiction when you're constantly spending money on like loot boxes like in a game in hopes of getting something?
See, you are an expert in this. Yes, loot boxes are absolutely gambling.
Mhm.
It just needs to be something with like a chance, like you're not like of an odd, like you're wagering something, and there's a chance of it happening or not happening.
Okay.
So that's where there's a lot of an explosion of activity, honestly, on the prevention side and treatment side for teenagers and kids because you could be on a PlayStation or Xbox, pick which one, and like these loot crates, it is gambling, um, and it's really challenging too because if you have your parents' credit card and you're a kid, you're not going to feel the consequence of oh my gosh, I just lost $50 on this box and I have nothing to show. Um, so it's really problematic. So that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Cryptocurrency.
try I'm gonna try and connect it over here to my expertise and be like, oh, how does it show up over here? But yeah, so crypto is one where I've had numerous people explain like how it's gambling to me, but it's also one of those things like so and this might hopefully you can understand better than I can when it was explained to me. There are some games where crypto is represented as like little like like objects. So like an object represents
Mm,
X amount of crypto and like the more you level up that object, the more crypto it's worth. And then you can sell that object to get crypto and then like reverse it into actual crypto money. And I was
yeah,
like, whoa.
you're Tiffany, you're more of an expert than you think. Like, so they would call that a social casino, where it's like you could put real money in, you could earn real money, could stake, but it's not fully gambling. So again, it's about um, regulations. My brain went a different way. So this, if you're sitting here like this is overwhelming, like it's moving very quickly. And so another thing that's going on is like prediction markets, which is like Kalashi and the different ads. So that is regulated not as gambling, but investing, which we could go on and on. I don't agree with that at all. But that means 18-year-olds can go on. And then it's like, who's going to win the NBA finals? But if you're doing a prediction, that's not sports betting, but it's a
Wild.
nightmare.
Yeah,
So
because I was the person that was telling me about this, I was like, "Oh, like, this is essentially gambling." Like, "No, you're playing a game." And I'm like, "But the things in the games are worth things." So, like, it's like it is gambling, but it isn't gambling. It's a really weird gray area.
it is. And um it's very intentionally kind of gray. I think by design. Um, because they want your money. Like they want your money. Uh and I wanted to speak to some of the challenges maybe with some of this is it's on your phone. This is like if I had a bar in my pocket, I had drugs in my pot, like you could do this from anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, it's extremely challenging. We are actually in some way we are really lucky to be in Ohio with this, Tiffany, because there's so like we have a really robust treatment network infrastructure. There's a lot of stuff to try to ensure some safety. And at the same time, this problem is exploding. Like it's exploding. Just the number of people, like 25% or so of people with the problem gambling, like who are gambling or having like problem gambling as a part of that, which is a huge, huge number. So that's just of those who are gambling. That's like, I mean, 3% of Ohioans, so 255,000 people. Um, I mean, it's a huge amount of people. The last kind of nerd context thing I think that could be interesting. We could also, I guess, Tiffany, pivot if this is more interesting. But with the Sorbet, like the Sorsby case, like there's all this context that I feel like would be helpful uh, to have. Um, and one of those is that sports betting became legal in Ohio in January 1st of 2023. So we're in like year 3 of sports betting being legal in Ohio.
Wait, I
So
thought it like, is it illegal or is it
it is legal to
it
sports bet in Ohio.
okay.
Now,
Isn't there some sort of betting that's illegal, or am I like
now you cannot do prop bets on college athletes. So you in Ohio you cannot bet on a college athlete because they were getting death threats
oh,
and harassed. So they passed legislation pretty quickly that there was no prop bets, like which are how many rebounds a basketball player could have, or this or that, this or that. So you could bet on like a team to win or lose or that, but you really can't. Now, professional sports, you could bet on how many strikeouts someone's going to have or who wins this, but you cannot do that in college in Ohio. Like now, other states you could do athlete, but that's something specific to Ohio.
okay.
Uh, yeah, no, there's so much. There's so much. There's so much. I mean, cryptocurrency can be gambling in some ways, where some people want to say that's an investment, but I mean, it really looks like the same pathway. Uh, it can be very challenging.
Yeah.
So, why I felt like we need that context to have this conversation, so just that amount of context that we could go hours and hours on any of those things, is this didn't happen in a vacuum. And so, for me, for Brandon Sorsby, it's like this didn't happen in a vacuum. This is someone who was really struggling. And that's what I'm going to focus on. Like, I'm not, no one's here to listen to our sports takes, at least my sports
I
takes.
don't
But
have a sports take, so that puts us
so
already at a disadvantage.
he does play football. I'm on the ESPN article that was published on April 27th. So that's a little older, but I just want to talk about like he went to treatment, like residential treatment. So one, I just want to say that is a real thing, residential treatment for gambling disorder. So some of the thing,
So
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna I'll raise my hand like a
No, no, no.
so just for like since I'm general public today, what is the difference between like the work that you do with gambling and like a residential treatment?
So That's a great question. So it would kind of be like if you had residential treatment for mental health or substance use, like that's kind of an easy way to think about it. So they're going to kind of curtail the curriculum, the interventions to that. So rather than it's like, hey, don't drink, it's like, hey, let's get you on game ban so that you're not getting these ads and you can't walk into sports books or you can't be on the apps and they can't take your money or like it's like more customized. So there's not a lot because again, this has not been as wide scale problem. You used to have to go to Vegas. You used to have to go to like Atlantic City or something. Now, like you can do this from anywhere and everywhere all time. And this is the other challenge with sports betting specifically. There's sports all over the world. So they've got like table tennis in China and you can get on and bet. You could bet on Monaco races and that, you know, like, so I mean, you could literally seriously sit there all day, bet, 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 bet. If you had the notifications on, you could get notifications of, oh, prop bet here, prop bet there. And then we talk algorithms, right? The algorithm's meant to keep you engaged and keep you there as long. That's what Facebook, TikTok, any of it does. So when you have that though with something that could be an addiction, it gets very problematic very quickly. So, oh, hey, we haven't seen you around. Hey, deposit 50, get 200. That happens. And so then people are like, well, that's wasted money. The house always wins, so it's not wasted money to not put that in. They're going to get that $200 back. They're just kind of staking you to get you to come back a little bit.
Mhm.
See what happens. Um, so yeah, I know. If you have any questions, Tiffany, you feel free to keep asking.
So I guess just to make sure I'm following you in that, like, residential is more like we're there every single day, we're focused on it, more of an intense approach than kind of like the work that you do.
So it would be like a focus setting where if someone's really depends on the stakes. So that's why it's like it's kind of nice to have like this public case to talk about because this is all public record. This isn't so that's why I'm like I do find this interesting. So for like Brandon Sorsby, his life is falling apart. I mean, like he had up to $5 million and like an NIL contract and to go to Texas Tech. So like he at this current moment has been paid 2 million of $5 million. So like sincerely his gambling at least cost him $3 million because he was not able to finish that contract and get the full payout of that. So now he may get drafted somewhere, but the amount of income that he gets from that, um, it's a problem. So I mean, when we talk about like financial loss, like that's just a very public one. So again,
And a
I want to
big
talk
one.
about like Brandon Sorsby as a person. So like I'm not attacking him. Like there obviously is a lot going on in his life. But it's just I that's why I kind of feel for this person because I mean we didn't put this out here ahead of the scandal, right, Tiffany? But in my mind, I'm like this was a matter of time that some person was going to have this experience, some athlete, some person is going to get in this because it's like it's literally everywhere. I mean, you cannot go to any kind of sports game, you cannot watch a sports game, you can barely be on an app and not see something about betting. I mean, even on the one hand, this is a scandal. On the other hand, like all the sponsors, ESPN has its own sports book. So it's like, there's all these, it's very convoluted.
Question.
Go for it.
In your professional realm of like gambling work, when, if ever, is it appropriate to say this is a scandal?
Like with a client?
Or with this, I already forget his name.
Oh, Brandon Sorsby.
Yeah, like because I heard you mention it. I know nothing
So he
about it.
got flagged and then investigated for placing bets on himself, like on teams he's on, which is a big no-no
Okay,
in sports because then you could be accused of rigging things. So, like,
okay,
say you bet against your team, or even I mean, it doesn't really matter. But like, if you bet against your team, you could very quickly go in intentionally throw a pick six or intentionally mess up, and you could skew things. So it's kind of like the cardinal like it's just this.
okay. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where like the reason people are like, oh, this is a scandal.
Yeah, so
Okay,
Ohio, which is on its own, Ohio's had several very public, like nationally, internationally owned cases. But again, I'm not surprised by that because the infrastructure in Ohio for problem gambling, all of it, it's very robust, it's very developed, and they work really they're all these agencies work really well together. So I'm not surprised by that because they are catching and involved in so many things. So there was like a baseball player who was intentionally throwing pitches into the ground and telling people to bet on them in code. So to me, I'm not surprised because like sincerely, Ohio is really on the forefront of this, and like other states, like, well, we hope we could get to Ohio's level. And even though we're at whatever that level is, we are still not. Obviously, this is a huge problem. So that is why, like, so that's when I use the word scandal. It's like this is like a national discussion. You really can't get on any sports website sports show, and this is get like, especially we're recording this in June right now, this is everywhere. I mean, this is everywhere, this discussion. So that's why I'm wanting to talk about, like, you know, Brendan the person, not like this, this isn't happen that we know this, right? As this therapist, Tiffany, like things don't happen in a vacuum. Behavior doesn't happen in a
Um,
vacuum. So I don't know what's going on for this person. I don't want to judge this person, but I think because it's so public, I think it would be helpful to discuss.
yeah, and it's helpful for me understanding what's going on so that I'm not when it, I say if, but I'm probably not gonna look it up because like there's just so much already in the world to keep track of. But like hearing you talk about it, understanding, okay, like this isn't necessarily like let's point the finger. There's like deeper things going on that led to like it getting to this bad.
Yeah, there's so many confounding things, which is again like Brennan the person, like, it's not this, we all make mistakes. This I've made many mistakes, but my mistakes have not become a national news story. And like, what is this, like, so I feel for him as like a person. We strangely have like a connection to this story because again, it was Ohio finding it, but he was the quarterback at UC football last year. I mean, this is at the same time, it's kind of a local story, but it's obviously bigger than that. But my point of this is like this isn't the last person that's going to have this, and so I think it's just talking about, like, for me, for Brandon, like this. If you think about sports betting getting legalized in Ohio 2023, I don't know his exact age. I could have looked that up, but it's like we didn't have this. Like this wasn't around. This wasn't a thing that like we grew up with having, or he would have grown up with like seeing. So for me, that's like you don't know. Like we know to put our seatbelts on, but there was a generation of people that didn't know to put their seatbelts on. Not everybody knows, like, hey, this is problematic. Like, oh, now you could even have trainings, but we know that DARE doesn't work, which is why they've stopped doing DARE. They've changed how they're talking about substances in schools. So again, it's just I feel for this person because like they're getting made to be this example of like, well, this is da 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 da. Da. But he is certainly not going to be the last person that has a situation very publicly like this. And I just from just the access alone, I mean, it is freaking everywhere. Um, and we don't have that maybe, oh, hey, that's not a good idea. Or, oh, hey, like versus all these other athletes seeing the story, maybe like, oh my gosh, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do. But we don't have a lot of examples like that to pull from. We just really don't.
Fair. So, like with this particular case, like what are you seeing where it get from your professional perspective, where you could potentially say like, yes, these are the things that could classify this as like a gambling addiction.
Well, and that's some of the things that were discovered was like, I'll read, I want to make sure I'm giving him justice. So, um, when he was at Indiana football, he made some bets on a single game as a reserve. Now he bet on the team to win, but still, that's a really risky thing to do. So, like one on these apps, you have to put your identification in. So, like you can't make a bet by design without verifying how old you are. Now we can talk about there are issues with that, but like you have to verify who you are, put your name and all this stuff, and then you're putting bets in your name. So it's like that's a very risky, like that's pretty risky to me. Like you're putting your name in, that that's not okay, NCAA, all this stuff, but you still done it. Like, and it's now in this record somewhere of like whatever sports book that would have been.
Hmm. It sounds like very in depth.
It it just is, and I think there's I mean, some of the stuff, like, you can they're called I mean, they would call the smaller bets, like, micro bets, but one of the things I read is that he was making sometimes, like, hundreds watching a baseball game, like, hundreds
Yeah,
of these micro bets in
but
one
it
and
just sorry, it's just hearing you talk about it and like hearing you explain it just seems so much more covert than like I guess like the stereotype of like going to a casino and watching someone not like be struggling to pull themselves away from a slot machine, which I know is a very, 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 very extreme stereotype. But it's just it sounds
oh,
like there's so much nuanced like to like sports betting and like crypto and all this where I'm like, I almost feel like if you don't know what it looks like or if you're not watching or you're not familiar with it, like it could easily just be brushed off as like, oh, like you just bet.
yeah, no, I mean, like, I mean, we're seeing cases where, like, people I think the thing it's very quick, so, I mean, you'd have to verify, but, like, I mean, you could get credit card advances and stake money on something. I mean, and it's they talk about friction, like how many steps between doing something. It's very frictionless. Like, you deposit the money and it's in, and like I mean, it's quick. I mean, you could be watching a game and doing so. I mean, it's so the speed of this is kind of the part that's challenging too. Like, you can get in like very quickly. I mean, again, you could be watching a game doing multiple things. um, I think some of the cases I've seen personally are people that maybe have access to like retirement accounts or other things, and I mean, sincerely, like, significant amounts of money um, being drawn, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and like you could really fall into trouble very very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, as I'm hearing you talk about it, I'm like, this is, it sounds like a very, instead of like the very blatant slippery slope, it sounds like a very sneaky slippery slope.
Yeah, and I will say, like, they have March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and in that time, like, they in Ohio, this is a unique thing to Ohio. There's like property tours where counselors, prevention specialists, like, we can walk the properties and see, and they have resources there and they put stuff in. But just being real, not all properties and all sites take that equally, and like, just have seen like where it's like, oh, we're against them. It's like, but I have seen where there are staffs like that really are investing, caring. They're not wanting someone. They're wanting them to have fun and have a good time, and entertainment, like entertainment budget, not, hey, like, I can't pay my mortgage type thing because I've spent all my money
Mhm.
at the casino. Uh, so that's the part where I think sometimes people understand, oh yeah, I shouldn't really go to the casino, or oh yeah, I shouldn't do this. But it's like, oh well, cryptocurrency, I don't want to miss out on that. Bitcoin prices are this. If I put $50 in Bitcoin 15 years ago, I'd be a billionaire or whatever. I mean, I don't know if that's for sure, probably not true. But it's just that's like the discussion. So it could be crypto. I think we think about things like the lottery or other stuff, but like sports betting, I think people understand it as gambling, but I don't think they understand like the harm that could come. Um, and again, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's like, if you try to watch any sporting event in the last 3 years, I mean, it's exploded.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wonder if it's just more like if it's exploding as a mixture of like understanding, recognition of how much it's been hidden, and like also redefining like what gambling, like the whole bubble of gambling is not just putting coins in a slot machine.
Yeah, it can be so much more. I mean, there's even like Pokemon cards, which you
Oh
might be
yeah.
like, what? Pokemon cards? But
Yeah.
sincerely, like, there are people buying, I mean, we're sincerely like thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon
Yeah.
cards, and they're just looking for these rare ones that are going, that's gambling. Like, you're spending thousands to get that one chance of a big hit.
Yeah.
Um, and I have nothing against Pokemon cards or collectors, but like, it's just, yes. I mean, I'm looking, there's a Charmander stuffy to the right here. So, got nothing against Pokemon. But it's just, it's so, I was doing an outreach event at a local college, and I'll just leave it really broad because it doesn't matter, right? But I
Mhm.
was there and I was doing some work on like a problem gambling coalition. And so, people were like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to this guy. Like, I don't gamble." But some students talked to me and they shared how they were seeing their friends buying these huge amounts of Pokemon cards and like they were obsessed with it. They were like, "Oh my gosh, if I could just get this one or this, like, da 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 da." Da." And it's like, okay, like, and they're like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Well, you be a support. Like, if they need help, need support, you can tell them, like, pointing out, like, hey, that this doesn't seem like the best thing for you." Um, but it's just an epidemic, and that's what I think I'm worried about if we talk about like inoculation. Like, I don't think we're all aware of what this looks like. I don't think there's a lot of conversations. So I just think there's going to be this catching up of, oh my gosh, that's not great. That's not great. That's not great. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. And we just don't know. Like, people don't know. They
Yeah.
just we're not prepped for that. And there's so many things in the world going on. There's so many things to worry about. But this is tricky. One of the things that strikes me, and people may get this, is sometimes people they shouldn't do this, but they'll buy like scratch offs for kids. And they think that's a really cute holiday tradition. Like, again, I would just, as someone that's in that problem gambling space, like, all that could do is really bad because if they don't win money, meh. If they do win money, they're like, "Oh my God, I get free money from this. This is great." That is not a message I would want anyone to take. And just in the gambling space, there's this discussion of like big wins or stuff, and like then it's whoa, like so exciting. But then if it's problem gambling, chasing that and going, like there are people who can just go to the casino, win some money, leave, lose some money, leave. That's not what I'm talking about. This is like, chasing. That's the part you have to like. So the Pokemon cards, oh, I'm 1,000 down in Pokemon cards. So let me just buy 3,000 more and I'll make my 1,000 back. Like that's what's happening
Which is
for
a little
some
bit.
people.
Yeah, it is wild. It's
It
wild.
is, and it's sad because we're all I mean we I mean I this is the last like random lens kind of external factor, but like economically things are hard right now for so many people and they're feeling that pressure. So I definitely get the allure and temptation of, oh my gosh, like I'm going to turn my $300 into $15,000 and I'm going to be a genius and I'm going to be out of this. Like, I get why that is so appealing. Like, I genuinely like do get why that's appealing. And also, like, this isn't a job. This isn't an investment. This is gambling. Like, it's not side income. But I remember this is bad, but like I would always watch like those ESPN late at night. There'd be like poker, and I just remember watching like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. And I remember being like, professional poker players, wow, wow, like they make so much money. But like, some do, most don't, but some do. And that's the part too where it's like, okay, we're like following these influencers. Oh my god, they're making so much money on Pokemon cards. Like, most aren't. Like, most aren't. In fact, probably 99% of them aren't. It's this 1%.
Percent.
So I just think we have to be really careful. And like, I listen, if you're an adult and you listen to this, like, Eric can go screw himself. I'm going to spend as much money on Pokemon cards or the casino as I want. You have every right to do that. I'm not upset. I am just talking like kids, teenagers. Like, this is a real teenager, like developing minds. Like, if you were showing this as there's no consequences, there's no risk, whatever. Like, we wouldn't do that with like texting and driving, drinking and driving, drinking in general, substances, other things, online safety. This is just one of those things, like, you really do have to probably talk through this because I want to speak to like the progression is very quick. This it can be very, very quick because again, you can go from 0 to 1,000 in like 2 seconds. So this is like something where you really have to like have those conversations, like what is safe, what is healthy. So like, again, I've got nothing against these, sports books or casinos or any of those things. Like, they're not evil on its own, but they can be very risky, and I would use the word like dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandably so. Well, I feel like I've asked a lot of questions. What ultimately do you want to leave people with regarding, and I forgot his name, with with what this football player is struggling with and what you're seeing and like how to like give people a different perspective on the overall situation.
So where to get plugged in to challenge this? Is that
Yeah, like where to get plugged in to challenge it, where to like better understand what's going on so you're not potentially going like, "Oh my gosh, like how
yeah.
could you do this?"
Well, we have a wonderful nonprofit organization in Ohio called Problem Gambling Network of Ohio. They put a lot of great information and resources and are very active in connecting all the work that's being done in the state of Ohio. So if you're really interested in like stats or information or where to keep up, but also just kind of highlighting some of those things, like maybe point out like, hey, should we do this raffle? This is we just don't have time, Tiffany. But where this gets complicated, what is one of the best fundraisers ever is raffles. I mean, they're the best. They are one of the best fundraisers ever. Like you get a $300 product and people buy a $20 ticket and you make more money than that's worth. And so this gets complicated because it's like, well, wait, if we don't do this, do we not? March Madness is a big one. So some people do like it's very common for pools to be made and it's a fundraiser for charity, which is a good thing. But like could be could be gambling, right? Like it really could be for some people. It is gambling and it could be risky for them. So I think just kind of having those conversations and um being on the lookout. But I would just be very mindful. This is the only thing I would say, like directly. Just be very mindful. I would not be buying anybody who's underage lottery tickets, letting them make sports bets on your phone, letting them feel like they've gambled or done something, and really just being mindful. Like, yeah, I don't know if I would take someone to the casino for the first time or be like, hey, let's get your first bet in. Like, I'm just being honest. I don't think I will ever do that for any family or friends because if someone's already done that, I think it's different. But like, I would not introduce. Hate to say that, but genuinely in this space, I wouldn't be introducing anybody. Like, oh no, you should do it. It's so fun. It's like no, unless they want to do that, I would not be.
Okay. Yeah. You don't want to be the one who's like opening the doors to something they may not even have been initially interested in.
Right. And then if yeah, just that chance that maybe you open a door they can't shut easily, like I would just and like if someone's already like I know that may sound like a strange line, but let them be the ones that introduce themselves to it. Don't be like, hey, let's go to the casino together. I know that
Yeah.
may sound strange, but like I really
It doesn't sound strange to me at all. It sounds like highly responsible. Like I don't want to be the one who like later down the line like someone hates or resents because I like pushed or shoved or like opened a door that they potentially never wanted to open or weren't interested in. Yeah. Well, maybe we have episode 2 to follow up because there's so much good stuff here, but is there anything you want to leave us with to think about today regarding this
it's
case?
it can feel very negative in nature, like to have this conversation. It can be very discouraging. There's lots of things that are discouraging going on, but like we can make a difference and like we can advocate and work together. And so just, don't I would just encourage like don't give up just yet. Like fight. I don't want to say fight the good fight, but like keep doing what you can. And if you want any like kind of resources of information, I would go to the PGNO website.
All right. You heard it from Eric first. Hopefully. All right. Well, we look forward to catching you guys around next time where we continue this wonderful conversation.